Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take your stack of research and your notes and turn it into actionable, synthesized knowledge. Today, you handed us what felt like an entire research library dedicated to just a single extraordinary tree, the moringa.
That's right. We really dove deep into the world of Moringa oleifera, often called, the world's most nutritious crop. We got everything from nutritional data and historical documents to, well, a whole set of recipes. I mean, they stretched from the kitchen all the way to the bathroom cabinet. It's a remarkable collection.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our mission today is pretty clear. We need to cut through the marketing noise and quickly synthesize exactly why this plant is causing such a massive stir. And, more importantly, how you can seamlessly transition this knowledge into practical, everyday use. It's about moving beyond theory.
Absolutely. It's about making this remarkable ingredient work for you. We're focusing on practical application, but grounded in the deep knowledge from your sources.
And what's immediately striking, I think, and something that really differentiates moringa from a lot of other so-called superfoods, is its wholeness. The source material really emphasizes this isn't a plant you just use one part of.
No, not at all. Traditionally, the tree utilizes all its parts: the leaves, the bark, flowers, fruit, seeds, even the root. Everything has either a nutritional or a medicinal property.
And on top of that, it's an agricultural powerhouse.
Mhm.
It's fast-growing, highly resilient, extremely drought-resistant.
And you can harvest it year-round in the right climates. It's
Yeah.
incredible. To really appreciate its nutritional dominance, we have to understand its context first. Moringa is native to the Himalayan foothills, but its cultivation footprint has just spread massively.
So it's not just in one small region anymore.
Not at all. It thrives across tropical and subtropical regions, most notably throughout India, Southeast Asia, and large parts of Africa. And it's been a crucial element of the indigenous diet there for centuries. It's not a modern fad, it's an ancient staple.
And that historical reliance, that must speak to the quality of its leaves.
Yeah.
When we look at the nutritional breakdown, it's almost unbelievable. The claim of being the most nutritious crop, it's really backed up by some concrete stats.
Exactly. The sources are very clear on this. Gram for gram, the dried powder from moringa leaves has significantly more vitamin C than oranges,
Ah.
and notably more vitamin A in the form of beta-carotene than carrots. And the mineral density is just astonishing. You're looking at high levels of potassium, calcium, iron, selenium, and magnesium, all in one easy-to-consume form.
So it's not just a collection of vitamins, it's a full-spectrum resource. And it also boasts impressive protein levels,
Right.
Which is unusual for a leafy green.
Very unusual. And that massive antioxidant punch we keep hearing about. The high protein content makes it invaluable in combating malnutrition in developing regions. And as for the antioxidants, they play a huge role in the claimed benefits.
So what are those main benefits? If we zoom out, what's the big picture?
The primary application for these nutrients, according to the research, is really twofold: powerful support for the immune system and notable anti-inflammatory action.
That's a lot of claims. Was there any conflicting data in the sources, or is there a general consensus that one of those benefits, say the inflammation reduction, is more robustly supported?
The consensus leans heavily toward its anti-inflammatory properties. That's driven by compounds like isothiocyanates and phenolics. The sources strongly suggest that by helping to moderate inflammatory responses, this supports everything else. It improves digestive health, aids in maintaining healthy cholesterol levels. It tackles these chronic issues related to modern dietary stress.
But the quality of that nutritional punch, and therefore the validity of those health claims, it depends entirely on the preparation process. And your sources detailed this pretty meticulously. It's not enough just to grow it.
No, the preparation is perhaps the most critical insight for you as a consumer. The organic standard is essential, of course, but the timing is everything. The sources emphasize harvesting has to happen early in the morning.
Early in the morning. Why then?
That's when the leaves are at their absolute peak nutritional content, before the heat of the day can potentially degrade some of those delicate compounds.
And once harvested, speed is key to locking that nutrition in. So what's the time limit? And what actually happens to the leaf if you miss that deadline?
The sources insist on immediate dehydration on the very same day they're harvested. This quick processing is crucial because extended exposure to air and heat, it just rapidly degrades specific unstable compounds. We're talking about certain B vitamins and those critical glucosinolates, which are key drivers of that anti-inflammatory action.
So deterioration begins almost immediately.
Almost immediately, which is why that small batch, same-day processing is just non-negotiable for preserving maximum quality.
Which brings us to the most essential application tip from the sources. To really optimize those nutritional benefits, you have to add that fine powder raw. So adding it at the end of cooking or just before eating, not cooking it extensively.
Exactly. Otherwise, you undermine all that careful, expensive processing. So knowing all that science is vital, now let's turn that raw knowledge into action. How do we get this fine, raw powder into a daily routine? This next part is all about drinks and blends, which is really the easiest way to get it in first thing in the morning.
The simplest method is just stirring it into a liquid. You can use plain water, or for flavor masking, maybe coconut water, fresh apple juice, or orange juice.
But the sources give a brilliant synergistic tip here. Combine it with apple cider vinegar. And this isn't just about balancing the taste. The ACV actually aids in digestion and detoxification.
That's interesting. Is that benefit purely anecdotal, or do the sources offer some kind of biochemical reason for combining the two?
Well, they hypothesize that the malic and acetic acid in the vinegar might help break down the cellulose structure of the powdered moringa. And this theoretical action could, in turn, increase the bioavailability of the nutrients during digestion.
So your body absorbs more of those crucial vitamins and minerals.
That's the idea. And the recipe is simple. 8 ounces of liquid, half a tablespoon of moringa powder, and half a tablespoon of ACV.
And for those of us who prefer something warm in the morning, there's the Moringa lemon water. It's a simple hot alternative. Just hot water,
Yeah.
the juice of half a lemon, and 1 teaspoon of the powder. Again, using that acidity to balance the flavor.
Speaking of flavors and rituals, the sources highly recommend the Moringa latte. They position it as this delicious, caffeine-free replacement for a traditional matcha latte.
So you get the ritual without the caffeine jitters.
Exactly. It's interesting how they frame it as a ritual replacement.
So is the energy boost from the Moringa itself comparable to caffeine, or is this mainly just a nutritional and behavioral shift?
It's definitely a nutritional boost. Moringa doesn't have caffeine, but its dense profile of B vitamins and iron is associated with sustained energy release, so you avoid the crashes that caffeine can cause. And to make the latte, you just combine 1 teaspoon of powder, about 12 ounces of plant milk, and a sweetener like honey or maple syrup in a blender.
Okay, blend it until it's frothy.
Right. Then heat it gently until it's steaming, but, and this is key, make sure it never reaches a rolling boil, again, to protect those raw nutrients.
Right. And moving on to speed and efficiency, the powder blends beautifully into smoothies and smoothie bowls. This is where you can really stack the nutritional benefits.
Absolutely. The mango green smoothie is a prime example. 1 cup of liquid, 1 cup of frozen mango, a banana, a cup of spinach, and half a tablespoon of moringa. The mango is a perfect flavor shield for that green powder.
And for thicker preparations, the berry smoothie bowl was mentioned, which is rich in fiber and antioxidants. The great thing about the bowl format is you can add other boosters, like maca powder, which pairs well with that earthy profile.
And we also saw that creative, healthy dessert application, the banana ice cream recipe. Just frozen ripe bananas, vanilla, cinnamon, and a moringa powder. An incredibly nutrient-dense sweet treat.
Okay, so shifting away from beverages, the true test of Moringa's versatility really lies in savory and baked applications. This is where you can sneak a nutrition upgrade into almost any meal, leveraging its natural green color and its slightly herbaceous flavor.
Let's start with the high-concentration savory uses, dips and dressings. The powder is positioned as a powerful, nutrient-rich replacement for traditional herbs or leafy greens.
For a quick option, a lemon tahini dressing uses just half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of powder. It's very simple. But the sources also provided a really interesting, more traditional oil and vinegar dressing recipe. And that way uses a surprisingly high amount, 2 tablespoons of moringa powder.
2 tablespoons. Wow, that seems like a lot.
It is, but it's alongside robust ingredients like olive oil, balsamic vinegar, turmeric, and paprika to sort of mask the quantity. This delivers a massive punch of nutrients in just a single serving. And then things get pretty sophisticated with dishes like moringa pesto. That combines the powder with basil, spinach, parsley, garlic, lemon zest, cheese, and pine nuts or almonds.
Correct. And since pesto is typically raw, it naturally follows that add raw rule for maximum benefit. The vibrant color also makes for some really fun food, like the moringa beet hummus, blending the powder with chickpeas and cooked beetroot.
Or for the absolute easiest savory boost, just mixing 1 teaspoon of powder into your easy guacamole. A classic combination.
Couldn't be simpler.
Okay, so now on to the main courses in baking. where that add raw rule can be a little tricky. The simplest application I saw was on avocado toast. Just mix half a teaspoon into your mashed avocado before you spread it. But baking is different.
It is. The key here is integrating it into items that are baked for shorter times, or, just using the powder for color and texture and accepting some minor nutrient loss. The source includes a full moringa bread recipe using a yeast dough that incorporates 2 tablespoons of the powder before proofing.
And a fantastic savory main is the baked falafel patties. The recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of moringa powder blended with chickpeas, cilantro, parsley, red onion, and cumin. And since falafel is often baked or lightly fried, the powder adds a really dense nutritional boost.
For sure. And finally, the sweet section proves that these nutrients can be deliciously masked. The chocolate moringa granola includes rolled oats, quinoa, chia seeds, and cacao powder. That rich cacao flavor easily overwhelms the earthiness of the moringa.
And for quick energy, there are the Moringa Bliss Balls using dates, nuts, cacao, cinnamon, and the no-bake peanut butter chocolate bars, which use a significant amount of powder up to a quarter cup.
Yeah, those are a powerful, dense nutrient vehicle, but they do require freezer storage to hold their shape, so that's something to keep in mind. And of course, chia pudding, which provides fiber and a great source of omega-3s. You mix it with the powder and plant milk, set it overnight, and you have a quick, protein-rich grab-and-go meal.
Okay, let's talk about the ultimate aha moment from your sources, which shifts the focus entirely from ingestion to topical use. I mean, we've covered eating it, drinking it, baking with it. Now, why on earth are people putting it on their skin?
This external application is just a powerful indicator of the plant's overall biological activity. The sources explain that moringa contains high levels of specific plant hormones, like cytokinins, which support cellular growth and repair. And, crucially, because of its powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory profile, you can apply it directly to the skin.
And they specifically note its use as a germ-killing astringent. For those of us who aren't dermatologists, what does that mean in practical terms for skincare?
Essentially, an astringent helps tighten skin pores and tissue. So when you combine that with its germ-killing properties, which inhibits bacterial growth, it makes moringa highly effective for mild breakouts.
Okay.
And for overall skin toning and minimizing irritation, it's tackling skin health from 2 angles: soothing inflammation and preventing bacterial buildup.
I mean, if you just zoom out for a second, a plant that can boost your immune system from the inside and act as an astringent and anti-inflammatory on the outside, it really does live up to that miracle plant reputation.
Absolutely. And the recipes for topical use are surprisingly straightforward. For instance, the Moringa face mask is designed for nighttime application. It blends half a ripe avocado for healthy fats with honey, lemon juice, and the Moringa powder. You leave it on for about 10 to 15 minutes before rinsing. It's like an intensive antioxidant therapy for your face.
And for a full body treatment, there was the Moringa Body Scrub that uses standard exfoliation agents like Epsom salt and coconut oil, but it integrates the powder alongside essential oils, things like lemongrass and lavender for an invigorating scrub.
Exactly, leveraging all those external anti-inflammatory benefits. So if we synthesize everything we've covered, from the nutritional chemistry that demands that quick processing to all the synergistic recipes and then these unexpected topical applications, the key takeaway is just the sheer profound utility of the moringa tree.
It truly is a whole plant resource. I mean, you're delivering vitamins A through E, high protein, vital minerals in a raw morning blend. And at the same time, it's serving as a germ-killing, astringent, and a potent anti-inflammatory agent for your skin. It touches nearly every facet of wellness that your research outlined.
Which raises an important question for you to consider as you reflect on this deep dive. Given that all parts of the resilient moringa tree leaves, bark, fruit, seeds, the root, are traditionally and effectively utilized for their benefit, what might be the next ancient superfood that we are currently only using in part, but whose potential full application we are yet to truly discover?
That's a fascinating thought. It connects history, utilization, and modern discovery all in one. Thank you for sharing these incredibly detailed sources with us.
Thank you.
We'll catch you next time for the next deep dive.